ba boom bum ba boom bum boom ba dum boom boom ba boom bum ba boom bum ba boom bum. But
And we've called into the conference room.
I'm here chatting.
Okay, good day.
Okay, so we are 9 lines from the top of Kufi on Yud Aleph. And what we are learning is that yes, indeed, there is the initial relationship, the initial hamshocha von Kesser into Chochma in the form of Shemban. But there isn't a total union, and there cannot be a union between Kesser and Chochma. Chochma is not capable of receiving Kesser, as we discussed before, and it remains a metzius of Chochma. But it's a way of the Kesser. It's a way of this reality of the level of Kesser. Then this is what's called the first birur. This brings an element of beetle into Shemban, where it recognizes and realizes what truth there is, and that affects a certain beetle and his spoilers in the in that metzius.
What gets refined? The birur is on Shemban.
Right. It is where you become aware from the vantage point of metzius, of the greatness of this truth, and you become all excited about it. The reason you become excited about it is because you really at a distance, you really a metzius. From your metzius vantage point, you see such truths become his point.
So
but that itself attests to the fact that you are still a metzius.
And so it sounds like the recipient becomes refined.
And then eventually there is this beetle, that it goes through it and becomes killed more dark.
Here, Chochma is considered as a metzius. Chochma is considered as a metzius.
At this point, it's still a metzius. It's a, so to speak, the tip of metzius, in the fact that it is able to recognize and to see the Inyan HaRosh in Inyan Kesser, and being spoiled from it, be affected, recognize its truth and its greatness. That is in itself a purity on the part of Chochmah. But nevertheless, this is like Chochmah looking at something that is not itself.
And how does...
One second. Then, however, the birur occurs when it submits to that truth. Even though it cannot really unite with it, it cannot really absorb it. But it, as we said the other day, it acts according to that truth. This acting according to that truth dismantles its own yeshus, This is a very important step in the process of bittul and elevation. This is something which today's world does not recognize at all. I mean, when you talk, I said they're talking about therapy and all that. The whole focus is how do I feel, which means the focus is where is my mitzias, to identify my own mitzias, and that becomes the basis of the truth of the life that I lead, and the basis of my mitzias. This chokhmah, this recognition, this hamshocha from kesed into chokhmah does not automatically have the effect, but provides for a perspective where he makes a decision and says, no, I'm not interested in that yeshus. I'm interested to connect to that truth of kesed. And when he focuses on that, we said, it seems almost artificial because he's only mimicking its truth. He's acting according to it, but it's not artificial at all. Because he sees this truth. He knows that this is true. It is not him, but the seeing it is him. He actually sees it. He actually recognizes it. He actually respects it. That's chokhmah. This is chokhmah, the ban, the lower level of chokhmah.
The lower level becoming dismantled?
No, the lower level of chokhmah is the seeing it, the recognition. And then, as we said the other day, it doesn't happen automatically, but then through avoider, if one is honest, this is what we say, this is the real union of objective pursuit. This is the truth. That truth. Not your preference, but that truth. And then you pursue it, you relate to it. And once you begin to relate to it, and you're no longer focused on your own mitzias, that enables, that refines the mitzias, and ultimately reducing the yeshus element, and where the recognition of this truth becomes more natural.
Chokhmah has a level of yeshus that needs to be.
This is a level of yeshus. If he becomes mispoiled, that's yeshus. Even though, okay.
Right.
To see this in kesed, it cannot be through your yeshus. It has to be through your bittul. But you are still a yesh. And he spoils the effect of it, the recognition of its greatness you're not there. So recognition of this is by virtue of the fact that it is much greater than what you are. In other words, is a reflection of the yeshus, of the limit. That's why you're so mispoiled. The contrast between that truth and your mitzias, this is what makes you his spoil. He brings out about his spoilers. That's called his slahabus and his spoilers and so forth. So there is a need for yesh. But you have to make a very clear distinction between knowing something through your yeshus, through your experience, or knowing something in its true perspective. But you are still a yesh. And therefore, his spoiler says you're still relating to it as a yesh. But since that you know it in its true perspective, like we discussed in the chokhmah, and you're mispoiled by the yeshus, eventually this is where the decision is made. This is what we say all the time. That halicha is you put one foot forward, but then you have to bring the second foot basically, to join the first. What is the pshat? That to bring the second foot, join the first means that you have to move away from where you were before completely, move into the new arena. This is where the real avodah is. To see the kesed yes, requires purity, but that's a purity that is given to us. This is part of the Kei HaChochma, the Moyach HaChochma.
The real avodah is...
The real avodah is then to decide, this is where I want to go, this is where I want to be. I want to perform, I want to live according to that truth, not according to my Yeshus truth. This is what the avodah is. And as I said, at first, that avodah is purely by Kabbalah Soil. I'm going to act as if, like the Rebbe says, act as if the Geula is here. But the Geula is not here. But if you really believe in the Geula, you really believe that, and you recognize that this is what the truth is, that it's happening, that it's there, you will join it by this action.
You started the shiur by speaking of the initial Amshacha Keser into Shemban, and then recently you said Amshacha of Keser in Chochma.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
That's what we learned before, that this Amshacha and Keser is to Chochma and Bin. That's what we do.
Yeah, I have difficulty defining Shemban.
Shemban means Metzius, essentially.
In this situation, Chochma is Metzius. Chochma is Metzius. In this example.
Chochma, again, we have to qualify that. Chochma, by definition, is not Metzius,
right.
But it is in the realm of Metzius. You're seeing from a vantage of Metzius. You're seeing the truth, but you're seeing it from a vantage point of Metzius. You're not there. You cannot unite with it. And then there's a whole process of avodah to refine that Metzius and to say goodbye, Metzius. I want to live according and relate to that truth. This is what defines who I am, not my Metzius. Not how I feel, but what is the truth.
So here Keser is standing for Shema.
Keser, yes. Yes, but this is what we call the Chitzenius Shema. And then afterwards comes the Pnimius of Shema. The Pnimius of Keser.
Rabbi, does Chachma itself become this form?
Chachma itself does not become spoiled, because Chachma is by definition beaten. But it is, but the Hamshacha is in the arena of his ways. Chochma does not become spoiled, but neither does it really have anything. You just see it. Chochma is a conduit. It's beaten. Like eyesight, you see, then you close your eyes and you didn't see. Open your eyes, you see, nothing happened. Doesn't permeate into your Metzius. It's a wonderful nothing, but it is not the Metzius of the person. But then, as I said, through this process, there comes the Ayin that he becomes totally bottled to this truth. He submits to the truth. This is the avoidance. This is the Ayin from Kabbalah Soil. You can ask, why need Kabbalah Soil? I see the truth. And this is an important step, important position, because this is one of the great challenges from the world. Say, you really believe it? How come you have to work so hard? If it's true, why you have to work so hard to relate to it? come to my arena, come to my physical world, you won't have to work. I'll show it to you right away. The minute you see it, you'll right away relate to it. Because that's where you belong, that's the truth. And we have to retort and say, no. What you are seeing is a truth of the behemoth. But there is a human truth. And in order to relate to the human truth, yes, indeed, you have to be mevared the behemoth. And that goes through the process of Kabbalah. But I know what I'm looking for. I know the truth. I'm not just. This is another fallacy mistake that people misunderstand. That the union of bittul hayesh and mevatel just for the sake of bittul. That's not what it means. It's meant to be. Bittul hayesh is when the yesh interferes with my relating to ayin, to kedusha. Here I see the truth of Chesed, and it doesn't let me relate to it. That's when the bittul hayesh comes in. The Rebbe Rashab said that there are two distinct forms of fasting. And he said that there is fasting and losing weight, or torturing oneself. That means torturing oneself, just to lose, so to speak, to put yourself through the suffering. That's not what bittul hayesh is. This is why we always point out, when the Torah was given, there was nase v'en nishma. Nase by itself is totally meaningless. It was not accepted.
Oh, that would be like just putting oneself through it for no.
Nothing. You don't. I'm here. Feed it to me. What are you, a behemoth? What we're going to feed?
But isn't that first step does seem to have that element of the skafia of we're saying no. He's not yet inside the truth, but he says, okay, I'll go that way.
Why?
He senses the
truth. He sees
situation.
He recognizes it.
But he doesn't yet relate.
He relates to its greatness, but he's not himself there. In order to get there, he has to go through this process of iskafia. But he relates to it. That's what we say. Hamshocha from Kesed into Chochmah is part of Seder Hishtalshelus, as we discussed the other day. This week we had all kinds of discussions on this guy. Very important. That the Seder Hishtalshelus was not meant that we should be in world and forget about godliness. That's not the way it was meant. We should be that in world, but we always have cognizance of godliness. The first day of creation there was light. And then there was the creation of the human being, which is the real presence of light. Then it was Matan Torah, all that. This is how it was meant to be. But the permeation of that into the world, that requires avodah. That's what the birur is, real birur is all about.
And that avodah is because of the thickness of the behemoth. Mashiach, if you walk into a room, then you're just there, and you relate straight away.
You relate straight away, but the behemoth remains a behemoth.
But here, your chokhmah already perceives this new.
That's what I said the other day. Remember, you're a guest at somebody's table, and he gives you a beautiful lunch, really a luscious lunch, and he leaves. As a human being, you say, hey, it's impossible. I can't even look at the food. But the behemoth says, forget it. Come on, enjoy the food. I told you I was in Port Washington. I had this group of men who understood what we were talking about. I said to them, gave me this explanation, they really understood. I said, what would you give to guarantee that you'll never lose this sensitivity? You could lose that sensitivity. This is the chokhmah that sees that which you do not really understand. Because you don't have the essence. All of the various mishom that we have, 1 and 1 is 2. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are still challenged to see, how is it 2?
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 and 1.
Mm-hmm. It probably goes the other way a little bit too, meaning the Nefesh Elokis bothers the Nefesh Bahamas. Like we just sang. You walk into the room and you're not just there, you want to know whose room is this? What is this about? Or you're at the meal, where's the host?
That's because of chokhmah.
Yeah, so they
That's because of chokhmah.
they struggle with each other.
But there is a struggle.
Yeah.
The Nefesh Bahamis will always come back and say, the heck with it, enjoy your meal.
Mm-hmm. And the Nefesh Elokis always come back and say,
And the human being says, no, you can't lower yourself like that.
right. Likewise, the Nefesh Elokis won't quit. Always comes back.
Nefesh Elokis will not quit, but it doesn't permeate the Nefesh Bahamis unless you let it.
So it is more easily silenced, you're saying. It's more easily put aside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like sight is the easiest thing to become oblivious to. Visible objects don't force themselves upon you. You can just close your eyes and they don't exist. And yet, that's the truth. You can only get them through your own truth. And this is where the challenge is. All right. So you know what? We have to be inside a little bit. So I'll go back and start from the line B'chinas Bitul. This is like 8 lines from the top. It begins with B'chinas Bitul, and at the end of that line, Omno. However, Acher HaHislahavus, following the Hislahavus, following this experience of great excitement, having seen that truth, who bal madrego yeser elyeno, he comes, he reaches, he steps into a higher madrega. Oh, b'chinas habitul d'shema. That is the higher madrega is the bechin of the bitul of the shema, shebebchinas bitul b'mtzius mamosh, where the beetle in Shema is the beetle of Shema itself, which is a beetle b'mtzius, not a beetle by recognition. The beetle is sufficient to recognize its truth, but actually become part of it, b'li shum islavus, without any excitement. V'hu inyan, and this is the inyan that the pasuk refers to as kol the momodako, the sound of a fine quietude. The Tamon Kosim Malko. And as it says, Tamon Kosim Malko, this is where the Melech comes. In this quietude, this is where the Melech is. How do you stand in front of a Melech? How do you receive a Melech? When a minister comes, you greet him by saying hi and clap, yay, bo. Melech comes, you stand in perfect silence. Why? Because when a minister comes and you stand in perfect silence, that means that you don't really appreciate him. To appreciate him, it is by recognizing his greatness, recognizing what a great job he does. You clap. A melech, if you clap, means that you appreciate the deed of the king, not the king himself. So then you greet him with silence. You can't express him because you're greeting him himself, not his accomplishments, not his good deeds.
Rabbi, it seemed like the Rebbe encouraged us to like clap and everything when he came. And he's like, no.
Because the Rebbe knew that he's talking to Shem Ban.
Yeah.
You should see.
It's just to get us excited. The Rebbe is quiet.
You should see how the Rebbe himself stood next to the Frierdiker Rebbe. You will see what silence is. All right, this is it for this morning. Have a good day.
We need some help in shul. Anybody's on the line?
David Babinay is sponsoring this week's Fabringen in honor of the beginning of his becoming a Chassid.
1, 2, 3. Brother, keep your head up. I know you're fed up, but the Jews got the move. Lech lecha, don't let up. Things get in the way to discern. Ooh, thank you, Tati, for letting me learn, letting me earn, and taking my turn. I know you know one day. Ooh, the favor's deserved, 'cause of your word, even kinder than mom and you.